how's it going, everybody? Scott's brought to you here with Tony George. We are DocSports.com. We are 8 in 8. And normally you see us with a sportsbook board behind us with all the numbers. You see us with Chuck Esposito. But this particular week, due to some circumstances that popped up on Tuesday, we were unable to record and film at Red Rock Sportsbook. We'll be back there next week. Real quick note, what happened was we as a family had we were, put it this way, directly in contact with somebody who had tested positive for COVID. So we had to make sure, got our COVID test and had to postpone being at the Red Rock. We'll do it again next week after talking to Chuck Esposito. Thankfully, myself, my family, we are all COVID-free. We all tested negative, so that's the good news. Also wanted to mention before we jump into 8 and 8, you can get the rest of our football season for just $325. You can get Tony's for $325 or mine for $325 or anybody else on the roster at DocSports.com. That includes, if you jump on board now, this week's football, college and pro, the bowls, college football playoffs, championship game, NFL for the rest of the regular season, NFL playoffs, and of course the Super Bowl in mid-February. So check that out if you wish. Let's jump into it. Tony George here in Sin City at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It's Oregon and Utah Pac-12 championship game on Friday night. The Utes laying 2.5 to 3 in this one, total 58. Listen, I remember watching that first game, that first meeting, and watching Utah play easily their best game of the year. Oregon didn't really play too well on the offensive side of the football, especially. They got routed, lost by 31 points. What are you looking at in this game? I'm just wondering here if you have any thoughts if Oregon can make up a 31-point deficit in a couple of weeks.
Well, I have a premium play on this game, but it's on the total. But I will talk a little bit about the side pick here. And as we preview these games in college football this weekend, Scott, I know you would agree with me. This is one of those weekends where everybody's playing. Nobody's here by accident. Everybody earned their way here because they're a damn good football team. You know, nobody was handed this weekend on a silver platter. They earned their way here, even if so-and-so lost or, you know, Wisconsin lost and Iowa's in or whatever. They still play good football. And both these teams are excellent football teams. Of course, Oregon's claim to fame is the big win over Ohio State early in the year. Stroud was kind of breaking himself in then and hadn't found his feet, but they got the job done. That being said, I don't know what Oregon has done to close the gap in 3 weeks, Scott. I really don't. You know, this line dropped down to around 2.5, got under that fall number of 3. We're taping this on Thursday. You may see that number go back up. But at the end of the day here, Utah is the most physical team in the Pac-12, in my opinion. They are year in, year out. Their coach is just one of those old school, hard-nosed type guys. They play a very aggressive defense. They got great lateral speed from side to side. They got defensive backs that'll come up and hit you, which is rare anymore, it seems. And I'm not going to think that Oregon closed a 31-point gap. And I can only lay it here, small lean, but I can only lay it here with Utah to get it done here in Las Vegas. And by the way, I'm still waiting for my invite for you to take me to the game tomorrow night, just so you know. But nonetheless, Scott, going back to our neck of the woods, used to be our neck of the woods, the Big 12, being Nebraska fans, but nonetheless, the Big 12 championship here, Mike Gundy got the monkey off his back, finally got over in Oklahoma and got in the title game here, taking on a team they beat by 10 points earlier this season. Your thoughts on the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, Oak State laying 5.5, total 46.5. It's tough to go against a team that's on a 9-0-1 spread run or thereabouts. But, you know, listen, Baylor was this close to making my premium card this week, and I ended up not putting them on my premium card. Not crazy about the quarterback situation right now, some bumps and bruises to the signal calling spot for the Baylor Bears going into this one. You mentioned, you know, the Cowboys got the monkey off their back. This puts them in a situation that they're not used to. All the pressure on Oak State, because if they win this game, they're probably going to be in the playoffs, college football playoffs. So that's kind of pressure that Oak State has not faced previously to this.
Right.
That's a tough nut to bust when you're talking about pressure on a team for the first time. And Tony, bottom line for me, you know, I play lines instead of teams, as we all do that have been doing this for a long time. I made this number 3.5 with a top out of 4. It's a neutral site game, as we all know, and I'm recommending the Baylor Bears. Again, they missed my premium card by that much, but I do still like them enough, according to that number that I made last week. If these two teams were to hook up, where I think the Baylor Bears are the play. Everybody is going to be watching Georgia and Alabama in the SEC title game in Atlanta on Saturday. Georgia laying 6.5 total, 49.5 Tony George. And, this number opened a few weeks ago, Georgia -3 if these two teams were to meet in this game. It got as high as 6.5. In fact, I'm going to tell you what, Wednesday night, I'm doing a radio show from home, and all of a sudden I see a prominent sports book pop it to 7. Now they're back to 6.5. Most books are at 6.5. There are a couple of 6s beginning to pop up. Your take on Georgia and Bama?
If you can get I'll tell you what, right now, I have no skin in this one whatsoever on the premium side of the card this week, Scott. I do want to mention to everybody that I do have a 7-unit top pick this weekend in college football. And in the last 9 weeks of my 6, 7, or 8-unit plays over at Docs, I've had one loss.
Nice.
So just FYI, it's a big weekend over at Docs. Be sure and get that free $60 link in the description below. And you could take that for $60 if you've never been a member off that football package that Scott introduced up front in the program. So be sure and take advantage of that. At the end of the day here, was it Alabama last week, Scott, that struggled the entire game against a backup quarterback and then struggled to win the game with a backup quarterback that was playing on one leg for a quarter and a half?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do against Georgia's defense? I've said it all year long. I think you've agreed with me for most of the year doing these 8-8s over at Red Rock that we both thought Georgia was the best team in the country. I think they're the best team in the country. They have the best defense in the country, probably the best defense Alabama's seen all year. And we've seen Alabama struggle mightily at times this year. Quite frankly, they got lucky last week. That being said, if I can get this under a touchdown, I can only lean Georgia. I think this is not Alabama. I think it's Alabama's year, Scott.
Yeah, I'll just throw this in there also. I did a show with Doug Epstone yesterday on this game, Georgia-Bama, and I recommended to play on the under 49.5. I don't have a premium play either in this particular game. If your number's based, it's Alabama. If you're the eye test, it's Georgia.
Yeah.
And I do agree Georgia's the best team in football, have the power rated over everybody else. I only have 2 teams that would be getting single digits to Georgia if they were to meet Alabama, of course, being one of those 2 teams. The reason I said the under, Tony, I'll make it really quick. You do have what I believe, like you do, Georgia's the best defense in all of college football. First team since like 1979, that has not allowed more than 17 points in any game throughout the course of the season. Alabama, on the flip side, they held 7 of their opponents to those teams' lowest yardage output of their entire season. So I think the under comes in. And again, it's not a premium play, but it certainly is an opinion here, Tony.
Well, with me having 30 years of experience, you having close to 30 years of experience, both of us are known figures in this industry. We're known to be real professional handicappers. I have a question for you. Just when we're talking about not only this game, but any of these championship games. And I'll tell you, you hit the nail on the head. I do look at numbers. We're betting into numbers. I look at stats. I look at, a few trends. I don't base any picks on trends. There are people that do, and that's fine if that's your thing and you're successful at it. But at the end of the day here, I do throw some of the numbers out this weekend because I've seen all these teams play umpteen times, Scott, and I do lean a little bit more with the eye test. What your thoughts on that process?
I just think whatever works for you, you go with.
Yeah.
The reason, and this is a numbers play on Alabama. The reason I didn't play it is because of what you just said. I know what I saw a couple of times this year out of Alabama. I saw them struggle against Arkansas. I saw Georgia paste Arkansas. Georgia was a premium play against the Hogs for me several weeks ago, and they just blew them out. Alabama struggled. Alabama looked bad on offense for the most part against A&M, lost the game outright. If not for the clock stopping in the final minute or so last week against Auburn because of what happened on one particular play. Bad luck for Auburn, good luck for Alabama. They probably don't have enough time to go down the field and get that win. So listen, better quarterback, Alabama. Better head coach, always Nick Saban, no matter who he faces, even as good as this Georgia coaching staff is. But again, you have to sometimes go with that eye test when you get this deep into the season. So I decided to
Yeah.
pass as far as a premium play is concerned.
Oh yeah, I ran out of town with my tail between my legs on this one. I want nothing to do with it, but it's fun to
Exactly.
talk about when I don't have any skin in the
Yep.
game. I this may be one of those games, folks. Just those of you that have it available to you for in-game wagering, maybe see
Yeah,
what's going
agreed.
on in the first half, and maybe look at the halftime line and some other things. Maybe a total. Like
Mhm.
Scott had brought up the total here. See what that is in the first half and what the number is in the second half. I think that's going to be one of those games for me, Scott, which is
Yeah.
very convenient living here in Las Vegas. We have about 5 or 6 different apps available to us here in town.
Right.
Let's switch gears to the NFL and an interesting game this weekend, Scott. The Los Angeles Chargers head to Cincinnati, who just absolutely took Pittsburgh out behind the woodshed last week, pulled out a can of whoop ass. It was unbelievable how they dominated that game. And what's weird is Cincinnati is up and down this. They did that against Baltimore, and then they go lose to somebody like what?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're getting with them. And the Chargers, they need to win pretty bad because there's some teams coming on in the AFC West. And interesting game here, Scott. Your thoughts? The line right around three right now, and 50.5 is the total.
Yeah, it's keep an eye on the weather for this one, by the way. It's,
Yeah,
always questionable this time of year when it's in Cincinnati. And if the weather is fine, I do like the over 50.5 here. I do have a play aside in this game as a premium play. When I look at this contest, you mentioned it. It's a young Cincinnati team with a young coach learning how to win this organization. They haven't done so for several years. And so there's ups and downs. And we saw what happened, as you mentioned. They beat Baltimore, pasted Baltimore. Then they come out the next 2 weeks and they don't look good, and the defense gave up a lot of points in their next 2 games after that. So can they, learn from what happened in that Baltimore game and the 2 games after that, and refocus after sweeping Pittsburgh for the first time in a dozen years, and then come out and play well against the Chargers? That's the task at hand for Cincinnati. What I think is going to happen here is you're going to see a lot of points as long, again, as that weather is okay. We saw 65 points and 57 points scored in the 2 games involving Cincinnati following that win over Baltimore. And I think there's going to be a lot of points in this one, too, at least getting over 50.5. So for me, Tony, over 50.5, the Chargers and Cincinnati. Next up, it's Washington at the Raiders here in Sin City. You got the Raiders laying 2.5, total 49.5. Looks like Fitzpatrick is going to play for Washington in this particular game. You got Waller and Jacob both questionable for the home team for the Raiders. Nice wins for both teams last week, and a big road win for the Raiders in Dallas. Can they build on that this week, Tony?
I think they can. But one thing I'm looking at this game. I'm looking at the over. 2-word pick, over 49.5. I'll
Sure.
just back you up with we'll just do a twofer on the overs, you and the Chargers and me and the Raiders. Last 2 games they've had in here where they've allowed like 78 points. Now those were high flying teams in Kansas City and Cincinnati. But Carr, if he throws for 300 yards or more a game, the last 6 times he's done it, the Raiders have won all 6.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an impressive stat. And you're going up against what? The 30th ranked pass defense in the
Mhm.
NFL, so I think that the Raiders are going to have some points, and their defense just gives it up at home. And Fitzmagic in there, he could chuck the rock, baby, and they got some receivers. This could be a back and forth ball game here. I'm going to take the over in this one, Scott. I think the Raiders are going to have another high scoring one here in town this upcoming weekend. Finally, I guess my question to you is, as we go to the final game here, Scott, is Ben Roethlisberger done? Because the Steelers, what's going on? Ravens, the Steelers, it's opened at 3. It's up to 4.5, 4 or 4.5 in some spots. I don't have the total in front of me because I'm at home and I'm unorganized. We're not at the Red Rock with my handwritten script anywhere. I don't have that anywhere here like I usually do.
44, my friend. 44.
44. Well, I think Baltimore's probably going to have to do the majority of the scoring if that's going to go over. But your thoughts on this? I can't figure out the Steelers. I mean, other than they can't run the ball and they can't put it in the end zone, they can't connect, and the Ravens are winning with smoke and mirrors. This is a very interesting divisional matchup, Scott.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that this game almost ended up on my premium card. Also, I've got 7 premium plays going this week in college and pro football combined. Like you, those top plays have been red hot. 7-star
Yeah.
plays. If we win this week, which I've got a 6-star in college, we're going for our 4th straight 6-star winner in football. But the 7-star play goes on Sunday, and if we win this week, we'll be 8-1, 89% the last 9 7-star plays. So we got nice runs going with both 6 and 7 stars on the gridiron. I lost. The bad news is I lost last week on the gridiron overall, but we swept the 7 and the 6-star. And going back now to late last year, 78 and 56, 58% college and pro football combined run in regular season and playoff action. So again, just wanted to mention we both got big plays going this week, 7 stars and 6-star plays for Tony and I. As far as this game is concerned, listen, where has that Ravens offense gone? I mean, they've scored 42 points
Man.
combined in the last 3 games. Somehow won the game last week despite Lamar Jackson throwing 4 interceptions. I'm going to tell
Wow.
you, this is probably going to be unpopular. Lamar Jackson is just not an elite NFL quarterback when it comes to passing
Yeah.
the football, when it comes to recognition of blitz packages pre-snap. He's not elite. Maybe he will be one day. Obviously, his feet are elite, and he can make plays that can get this team, deep into the playoffs. But again, as far as being an elite passer, reading blitz schemes when they're thrown at him, he's not quite there yet. Normally, when it comes to Pittsburgh Steeler games, you want nothing to do with them when they're laying points, especially nowadays.
Right.
And you want everything to do with them when they're getting points or you pass their games. Well, in this particular spot, getting 4.5, really thought they should have been 3.5 tops. I think backing Pittsburgh is the way to go and grabbing those points with the line being as high as it is. Interesting note, you said, is Big Ben done? There was an article written by a very well-respected writer here in Las Vegas just this past few days who spoke about, can Mark Davis convince Mike Tomlin to come to Las Vegas next year and leave Pittsburgh. Wouldn't that be something? But anyway, I'm going to recommend a play on the Pittsburgh Steelers here plus the points over Baltimore, Tony.
Yeah, well, you know what? And there's going to be a lot of public reaction to what they saw last week.
Hmm.
And bear in mind, the same Bengals team that waxed them is the same Bengals team that lost to the Jets.
Sure.
So strange things happen, and some good points there. I want nothing to do with the Steelers when they're a favorite, but when they're an underdog, you want to take a look at them.
Hey, he's Tony George. I'm Scott Spreitzer. Don't forget to check out that $60 free account. Below this video, you'll see the link. You click on that, you get a free $60 account if you're not yet a member at DocSports.com. And again, the rest of the football season, college and pro, for $325. You can get that from Tony or me or anybody else, $325 per capper for the rest of the football season. Next week, back at the Red Rock Sportsbook. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. For Tony George, I'm Scott Spreitzer. Let's put him in the win column.